Welcome to Quilt-Cam, everybody. This is Bonnie Hunter in the basement in Walburg, North Carolina, where there's a whole lot of stitching going on. I can't believe how fast June is already flying by. We are almost halfway through, and do you know what happens in July? Our next Leader and Ender challenge is going to start. Every year on the blog, I issue a challenge, not to be a race, not to get finished in 2 weeks' time, but something to work on through the year. And it's usually made with very simple units that you use in place of that folded over, thread covered, throwaway spider, jump stitcher, whatever you want to call it, that puts the thread in the trash instead of in the quilt. So we're going to work with some really easy units, but they're going to make a whole lot of bang this year. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. You'll be looking for that in just a couple of weeks, likely to go live when I get back from our July Alaska cruise. I need some more time to get the prep work done. And I only have 3 days home in between being in Illinois and leaving for Kentucky tomorrow. And when I get back from Kentucky, I only have a few days before I hit the road. And I have a driving trip for 4 different guilds, 3 in Georgia, 1 in Tennessee. I finish in Tennessee just before 4th of July and drive straight to the cabin. So you can see that there's just not a lot of empty space there. So if you are still working on your tumbler quilt, that was our last year's Leader Ender challenge, don't worry about it. You've got a little bit of extra time. Be looking for the next Leader Ender challenge about mid-July. What else can I tell you? Oh yeah, that Leader Ender project that didn't get done, that tumbler one, maybe it can become your primary project while we pull the next Leader Ender into play. If you are with me for the first time, I want to welcome you. Quilt-Cam is something that happens on a whim. Like I said, I'm home for 3 days this week. I was in Moline, Illinois with a wonderful group, the Mississippi Valley Quilt Guild. And we did 3 days of workshops and 2 lectures, and it was just a wonderful time. June in Illinois, the weather was just beautiful. February, not so much. When I was in April, definitely not so much. But June in Illinois is great. So if you're new, this is what we do. We work together. This is not a class. This is not a lesson, although you might pick up some hints and tips and tricks along the way while I'm working on what I'm working on. But this is where you bring in what you are working on into the mix. And we just chat together and have a great time for a little over an hour, maybe towards an hour, 15 minutes. We'll see how it goes today. If you want to send me photos of what you're working on, I love to share those, and I will usually use my phone and show you what's going on, what somebody else is working on. Love to hear the stories behind what you're working on. You can email me those photos to quiltville@gmail.com. You can't post those on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere that I'm going to see them, so email is always the best way to reach me during Quilt-Cam, because those show up right on my phone, which is buzzing already. Some people are anxious already. If you are watching on YouTube, I want to invite you to come over to the blog, quiltville.blogspot.com, because there is some background information that goes along with this feed. This feed is embedded in the post, and the other stories and things about what's going on in Quilt-Cam are written in that blog post. All of the Quilt-Cams are archived in the Quilt-Cam tab at the top of the blog, so you can easily scroll through and pick out what you've missed. I've also started just this year adding a little excerpt about what goes on in each Quilt-Cam that might help you find something that you saw before that you can't remember where it went. I don't have time to go back and re-index everything, but from this point on, I'm just putting a little blurb about the machine I'm sewing on, the project we're working on, and what's going on. So today's project is a continuation of the ever cute garlic knots blocks. These were featured in my Addicted to Scraps column with Quiltmaker magazine. And if you want the issue, click the Addicted to Scraps tab at the top of the blog and scroll down until you find them. I think these were 2014. There's a link to the digital copy that you can get from Quiltmaker magazine. These are likely to go, again, when I get a full quilt made with them, back to Quilt Maker magazine, in which case they would have the full pattern for this quilt in the magazine. But up until now, because it's still a quilt in progress, I can't give you directions. You've got to get them from the back issue. What I'm doing, you can see here, I just got this one out of the machine. Got a little bit of chain piecing going on. This is my block setup for how these go together. They're sewn in panels and then sliced and diced and rearranged, and it's really fun. Total scrap annihilation. I'm playing with all of the colors and just putting what colors I like together. It doesn't matter whether they're from the same fabric line, same manufacturer. Some stuff might be recycled, some stuff might be vintage, some stuff might be a batik next to a 1930s cotton print. It just doesn't matter. I love to play with color and pattern on the fabric. So that's what we're doing here. The machine I'm sewing on today is a 1950s, we don't have an exact date because it doesn't have a serial number, 1950s modern, and it was made in Japan, and it's this lovely shade of baby lotion pink, and it just makes me smile every time I sit and sew at it. It's a straight stitch machine, and it's based off of the Singer Class 15 models. It's got the tensioner to the rear left. It's a straight stitch only, which means the feed dogs are very, very narrow and close together. That gives me a wonderful straight stitch and a great 1/4 inch seam because my fabric is on both of the feed dogs. Usually if you're sewing in center needle on a zigzag machine, you're only using part of the right hand feed dog. So this is helpful for me to get a really nice stitch. It takes a class 15 bobbin, and that bobbin is right down under here. And it's about the size of a Bernina bobbin. Oh, looks like that one's going to run out of thread, maybe a little bit down the road. But these bobbins hold a ton of thread, so much more than a featherweight or a 301. I do have my 301. You can't see it, but it's over here to my right. I love the slant needle on that machine, and it's set up with a walking foot to do binding. So I do my binding over here, do my stitching over here, and sure, we can. Who says you need one machine to do everything? I'm going to stick this back in here. It's important to know how to put the bobbins in with each different machine. And usually the thread has to double back against itself before it goes through this guide. And that's what adds a little bit of tension on there. So get that in there. We'll be watching that thread, so when it runs out, I can pull up a new bobbin. So what's going on in your world? I would love to see photos of what you're working on. While I am thinking about it, this is something I posted about this morning. So if you go back to this morning's post, I was getting a pedicure yesterday at the little shop that in my one stoplight town. And while I'm having my feet soaked and worked on, I'm scrolling through my phone and just going through my Facebook feed, and there was an article posted by my friend Sarah straight from Psychology Today, and it said, is quilting an addiction? Or more on the quilting addiction, and I've linked to it in this morning's post. But imagine me sitting there going, yeah, right, it's an addiction, I got to read this. Click to open up the website, and I'm reading down the paragraph, and there it lists my addicted to scraps column, because I had used the word addicted, and is this a negative thing and whatever. So it was really, really quite funny. I think that by the end of the article, they realized that we're just using the term addicted for fun, but there are some things that can be really addictive. And let me say this, if you are unable to pay your phone bill or your mortgage or your insurance or your auto payment or your credit card debt because you're spending too much money on fabric, that is a problem. That is a problem. So that's where we come in with the scrappy quilts. And if you've got a fabric buying habit, chances are there's a lot of stash waiting to be rediscovered in your own sewing room, in your closets, in your drawers, or whatever. Let's bring it out and let's play with it and let's sew it up. But if anybody has read that article, I would love your comments on it. So let me know what you think. Is quilting addictive, and is it addictive in a bad way, or is it a positive way? One of the things that one of the comments said, and I totally agree, If we took all the time that we spent making charity quilts for others and gift quilts for others and things that we're donating, and we took all of that time and we spent it in the soup kitchen, we'd be getting medals of honor for the time that we're giving. But if we are spending that time making all the quilts at home to give them away, isn't that the same thing? And why isn't there a badge of honor in that? So let's get busy with the scraps. I got to chase down my foot pedal. It's back here. Okay. So I've tested the stitch already. I just tested my seam allowance already, so we are good to go. Whenever I change machines, I always do a seam test because I need the blocks to come out the same size no matter which machine they're sewn on. So if you've ever heard that, oh no, if you started on this machine, you should finish it on this machine. No, just make sure that the stitch with the seam allowance is giving you the unit size that you need to keep things the same. It's not the machine. You're the boss of the machine. You set the seam allowance. So make sure. So I'm going to send these through really quickly here. This machine just has a wonderful little hum. I oiled her up also, put in a new needle. They do all have their own voices. So I'm going to take this one as far as I can until I can't sew on it anymore, and then I'm going to slice these guys and use each block as the leader ender for the other. So you'll have to watch this. Now I have to remind myself, on this one I have to press towards the light strips if I want things to nest right. And it's been a couple of weeks since I sat at these, so every time I do it's like, yeah, what was I doing? I really like a machine that has all of the action happening right here because I tend to get really close to the needle when I sew so I can see it. And I have been whacked in the forehead a time or two. So those ones were pressed towards the light so I can press this one towards the center. I love that turquoise polka dot. Now that's as far as I can go on that one without trimming. So let's do this. I need to press these really quickly. I've got finger pressing, and then I've got the iron hot next to me. These need to go out towards the light and in towards the center. I have to report that the new remote clicker on, clicker off for the sewing machines is working fabulous, which means that I have not left any irons on since I installed them. I always just leave the sewing machine light on, and then when I leave the room, I look back, and if the machine light's on, then the iron's on, and I use the remote by the door to turn it off. Okay, so we're going to nest these babies. Trusty 2x6 or 2.5 by 6.5 inch ruler, favorite of all time. I really don't like to cut sitting down, but this is one of those blocks where you got to do it, or you're up every 2 seconds. Anytime I am planning strip sets, I always add at least a 1/2 inch to the length of the strip sets, just so that I have room to trim up. There's not a whole lot of waste here, but this makes sure that things stay straight. And then these guys will be ready to sew. Okay, so you see what we've got so far? Phone's going nuts. Let's check in and see who's with us today. I know it's a Saturday afternoon for most of us, but my reason for doing this on a Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. North Carolina time, is it gives those in Europe a chance to check in during their evening. Gmail says, Yahoo! Brenda Bowman says, hi, I'm Brenda from Manassas, Virginia. I'm working on this quilt for a coworker's 7th baby just born yesterday. It's the dandy pattern from Missouri Quilt Co. on my new vintage sewing machine, Tammy, who I think is a cousin to Petula. But Brenda, you didn't send your photo. So email me back and send the photo because I'd love to see all of that. I know how exciting it is to, we hit send, we forget to attach. So email me back, Brenda. Welcome, glad that you're here. This one is from Kimberly, who says, happy Saturday. I'm excited to have the day off, one of 2 this month, to watch you live. The cat is sitting on the one I'm quilting today and hope to finish. Oh, what a sweetie. It is a scrappy quilt. Most of all, it's mostly all I do. The other is the scrappy flag and pinwheel that I've come up with that I hope to finish soon. And she's from Ohio. So here is, oh, that is so cute. I love the stringy pieced border on that, but she's got her quilt inspector right there doing her job. Really sweet. And let's see if we can flip to the next one. Okay, go back. Go back. Oh, nope, that's the only one that's on here. The scrappy flag didn't have a photo. So here's Allison, who says, tuning in with Roll Cotton Bowl. How are you, friend? She says, I'm addicted in an oh so positive way. Working on final pieced borders for Roll Cotton Bowl while tuning in today. Love your patterns, and I'm always so pleased when a pieced border comes together perfectly. I know, I love it, right? I love it. Thank you for all the pressing instructions. They make me so successful. I've taken over the den today as hubby is out on errands. And she's in Plano, Texas, working on, oh, she's got her lovely 301 going there. Sorry, dry tickle, guys. But there's her Roll Cotton Bowl. Just getting the borders going. Check out that lovely Mocha 301. We love our vintage machines here in Quiltville. Allison is, I would say, my enabler. So Allison, while I've got you here, I have a story to tell you. I got an email from a gal in Minnesota who contacted me a few months ago. Remember the Singer 99 that you had in the library table? She's found me one for $150 with the machine in that library table. And she's going to Pony Express it down here when they come to Florida for the winter time. So I'm so tickled. It's my first Pony Express, which means that quilters will pass one machine to another person who's going that way, to another person who's going that way, to somebody who can eventually get it to you without having to ship it, because things get damaged in shipping, plus shipping is really expensive. So in the fall, late fall, I will have to find a place for that library table, which I'm just so super excited about. So be watching for photos of that. And that's thanks again to Allison, who first alerted me to this kind of library table desk that fits the 99 in its case base. So excited. I'm doing the woohoo. Can you hear me? All right. So we also have, okay, Brenda says, oh, here's the picture. Oh, that's cute. That is really cute. And I see her vintage machine that is really, looks definitely related to Petula in the back. The vintage machines are just wonderful, especially when they're a straight stitcher. They're just made for patchwork. It's just perfect. So if you have a chance to find one, I'm biggie sizing and looking at this. Oh yeah, it's a citation. That is exactly Petula. That is wonderful. Although the picture of me in the background doesn't look so attractive. So much fun. Thank you for sharing that. I love the baby quilt. Okay, so here's one that says, oops. Oh, this is the picture, the quilt she's working on. So we have Emery's Stars in the foreground, which was a baby quilt we did with bonus triangles. And then there's Aliatare in the back. So I love to see the quilty business going on your end of the screen. Beautiful. Now let's find out who that belongs to, because it just said oops on the, was that Brenda's? No. Oh, there she is. Okay. So we've got your photos now. Beautiful. Holly says orphan blocks. Our priest announced he is leaving in August. Minnesota is cold, and I'm in a bind. Hopes he likes this block exchange we had with shirts and cottons. Oh, that is really fun. So she's got all kinds of random blocks of similar size going into this quilt that she's going to give to her priest when he heads off to freeze his collar in Minnesota. And boy, those winters do get cold in Minnesota, but the people are very warm-hearted. I see pinwheel, double 4 patches, and regular 4 patches on point, 9 patches, all kinds of fun stuff in here. He's going to love it. It's wonderful. Thank you, Holly. So here's one that says, well, there's no name. So it's Cheryl D. Como, I think. So glad to be watching Quilt-Cam. Here's a picture of my orange peel that I'm quilting today. And she's doing it in her machine. And I'm biggie sizing. Oh, I see. Very nice. She's done her orange peel applique with a machine blanket stitch. So she's done the applique work by machine. It looks, at least it looks like a machine blanket stitch with white thread. Looks really nice against those bright colors. And then she's machine quilting it today. So beautiful orange peel. Thank you. All righty. So I'm going to send this through the machine. Now I've got this one is now the leader for this pair here. So I'm going to send these pairs. And again, I'm having to remind myself, what am I doing and how am I doing it? And if I forget, what I tend to do is pick up an already completed block and look at the back side. And the way that the seams go on this one can be my roadmap to remind me what to do on this one. Now, the whole reason we're able to do Quilt-Cam today is because the hubby is in a tennis tournament in Raleigh. And when he told me Friday, or I guess it was Thursday, when he told me Thursday that if he won his match last night, he'd have to play first thing this morning, which meant he was going to stay in Raleigh overnight because it's over 100 miles. And if he had an 8 a.m. match, you don't want to wear yourself out driving there early morning and have to play. So he stayed, he won his match. And the first thing that came to my mind was, yippee, Quilt-Cam. Okay, so these ones. So now this is as far as I can go on this one without removing them from the machine. So now this one's going to get pressed. Do you guys find that some fabrics are just more ravelly than others? Some of them, nope, I need to go the other way. Some of them are just fine and you can handle them and handle them and handle them and they don't unravel. But some of these, and I've even found it to be some of the more expensive ones, you start pulling threads and threads just come up through the seams and you've got a hairy block. I suppose spray starch might help with that, but I'm not big on that. Okay, so I'm going to nest those seams. This is the part where you feel everything fit. Okay. And the awkward trying to cut at a sitting position. Trim off the excess. And these are 2 inches. To be square, I'm using 2 lines on the ruler. So I've got the line that I'm measuring by on the fabric at the edge, and then another line at the bottom, so I'm sure I'm getting a good square shape. No trapezoids, no parallelograms. But I love small rulers, this job. And I'm thinking I should contact Creative Grids and make a bunch of quilt bill ones. That's on the list. Update on the t-shirts. I'm waiting to hear back on what they can find with V-neck. They sent me some photographs. I had some questions. They have not gotten back to me. So I leave tomorrow. So okay, so now we leave this pair here. You see how leaders and enders work? You don't have to remove everything. Just remove things in sets that are manageable. So these ones, okay, go away from the neutrals. And now we can add, we'll turn this around. Okay. Wrong ones. These belong to them. Where are these? Where are these? Don't sew the wrong ones. I did that before. Here they are. Here's some. Make sure you're sewing on the right neutral. And where did the block part go? Serious. Okay. And sometimes ravels catch on the presser foot. Okay, now that's as far as I can go on those. So now these two come out, and I do the same with these. And you just go as far as you can with 2 blocks. And when you can't go any further, you lay out a 3rd block and work it in. It's one of the hardest things to describe at a workshop, how to only work with a chain of 2 blocks at one time. But when you're doing blocks that are all differently scrappy, it makes a lot of sense to do it this way rather than 56 blocks in partial production. 2 blocks at a time. An engine and a caboose in a very short chain. Okay, now this is the fun part. This block gets completed as soon as we do this. So here they are the same. Can you see that? Yeah, quilt rack time. And then this, turn the top one upside down, and you've got your block. And get those seams to nest. When I feel the seams nest, then I hold them there. So instead of working with pins, it's like working with wonder clips, which are my hands. So I feel those seams nest. So it's nest them and hold them. And then this one, remember, we're going as far as we can. So after this seam, I'll have to lay out another block. Okay, so 2 the same, 2 units the same, turn 1 upside down, and there's your block. We can remove 1 from our chain and press it. I absolutely love that pink because everywhere you cut it, it looks a little bit different. That's 1 piece of fabric. It had all these little swirlies in it, and that's how it cut up. Very cute. All right, back to the drawing board. Who's chatting at me? Uh-oh, there's a message from the hubby. He says, lost my singles match, but it was close. And then in doubles, he lost the first match. We play again at 4, which means more quilting time. Yay! Good job. Doing Quilt-Cam. You know, it's the most frustrating thing when you know that you have typed something right or voice to texted right, and you're watching it come on the screen while you're saying it, and then like 30 seconds later, Google decides to change something, and you send it up wrong. So I figure we're all just going to get very, very adept at reading typos and know what each other was saying because it's out of our control. All right, so let's lay out 1 more, and then we will do some chat. So 3 the same, 2 backgrounds. What are we going to put with this one? I kind of like that. 2 backgrounds. And that's purple and blue. So let's see what we can find in the singles that go with that. I just cut up a bunch of random stuff, but I think that this purple, oh, that'll be nice. Okay. It's just fun. Just fun to play. So where were we? Missy Evans says live. My first live video. Yay from Cat. Catlettsburg, is that right? Catlettsburg, Kentucky. I'm headed to Kentucky tomorrow. Hooray, I cannot wait. I'm flying into Louisville, and I'll be staying with my friend Irene for just a couple of days until we head out to the Kentucky Heritage Quilt Society or State Quilt Guild, whatever thing that it is, retreat this weekend in Cave City. So a couple of days with my friend in Louisville. She just closed on her house just this week. So I told her, I don't care if I want a mattress on the floor surrounded by boxes. I can be there. I can help. We can have some fun, and then we'll go off to retreat together. So that'll be fun. Those Kentucky girls, they've got it going on. It's really going to be fun. Diane, no, this is Diane from Glendale, Maryland. I've been making garlic knot blocks out of 2-inch squares for about a month. I saw you were making them on Quilt-Cam several weeks ago and decided to use up some of my more than 10,000 2-inch squares. Okay, so let's talk about that addiction thing. No, using them up is absolutely the best thing. I cannot tell what size yours are, but mine are finished at 6, unfinished at 6.5. Yep. I also have a ton of 6.5 8-pointed stars to use. So I created an 18-inch block by inventing another element. I just love this. I've attached the pics to this email. Hope they come through to you. So she's doing garlic knot stars here. Oh, how fun is that? See what happens here? Isn't that great? Wonderful idea, Diane. I really like that. And it's also going to give a lot of blank area for some really fun quilting. You want one more look at that? So her stars are in the middle, and then she's got these, I call those other blocks like donut blocks, because it's just a square surrounded by strips. That's a spacer block. It just gives room for the design to emerge. These are going to be super fun. Great job. I love it. Love it. Glad to have Maryland joining us today. Okay, Valerie Bradley says, Quilt-Cam, hooray. Today I'm working on a wedding quilt for a friend who loves all things vintage. So I thought she would appreciate it if I made her a quilt on my 1947 featherweight. And she's all set up here with Quilt-Cam. I see cutting table. I see all kinds of cutting mat on here. So there's her setup right there, featherweight, just a stitching away. Stitching can be simple. It is therapy, isn't it? And look, it's not addictive if you're making a quilt to give away to somebody as a wedding gift. It's just making. Why is this any different than cooking or knitting or whatever? We're creative and we're making. So I don't understand that article. Just don't. Okay, so she's in Tigard, Oregon. Helen Van Loon says, I'm playing catch up on my Challenge 365 blocks. I'm about to tackle 12 crowns with its half-inch finished, half square triangles. And she says, big yikes from Helen. So here's her. Oh, yes, I like this. Let's see if I try to turn it, it wants to flip. So we're not going to turn it. I'll biggie that as big as I can get it. So there she's got these blocks right here. Absolutely love them. Thanks for sharing. So that's another thing that's on my list, is I've got to get my 6 Addicted to Scraps columns pieced and written and ready to send off sometime in July, along with everything else. Okay. Joanne Rosenfeld says, I'm working on turning these pastels into stars to make a baby quilt for one of the guys I work with. They are having their 3rd girl in about 6 weeks. It's too hot and humid to do much else in Minnesota today. Oh, but this is sweet. Lots of polka dots. Oh, yeah. So this is what she's going on. Can you see in the center, there's that little pastel, various pastel 8-pointed star, and she's pulled out all of those lovely soft other pastel colors to go with it. It's going to be very sweet. Whole lot of baby quilt making going on. And what I don't, we say, oh, it's just a baby quilt. But do you realize how much work goes into a baby quilt? A lot. A lot of time, a lot of fabric. That is just beautiful. Oh, her star block is a boxy stars. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, one more. Here's Mary Crowther in Walla Walla's Grand Illusion time. She says, I got the binding and hanging sleeve on my Grand Illusion this week. Had to hang it over my porch for you. My hydrangeas look so pretty with it. I think loving a Saturday quilt cam with nobody home. Isn't that the truth? Oh, that's so pretty. She's even labeled it. So I'm going to biggie size it just a little bit, hanging off of her porch with the caption on there. Quilting Grandma's Grand Illusion off the porch. Isn't that just a June kind of thing? That is absolutely wonderful. Thanks for tuning in, Mary. That's beautiful. Mary's always got such great comments, and she's always there, always present. I know that if I've posted anything that you know, if I'm feeling something, Mary's going to be right there to lend a positive word. So thank you for everything, Mary. Barbara Adams says, hi from New Hampshire. I'm watching Quilt-Cam and working on my churn dash. Love this quilt. Thanks for all the time you give to quilters. And thank you for the time that you give up in your day to spend with me. Let's send these through. So we're actually going to get two going on here, because this one coming out of the machine is also done, just needs to be pressed. And I will only be able to go so far on this one. And this sometimes happens, that you have to piece the second one right on top of the first to keep the chain going. And here's this one. I love this background fabric. It's vintage. It was only 36 inches wide. It came from a scrap bag from somebody. I have no idea where. But you can see how things are pressed on the back so that everything nests really nicely. I'm still thinking about that alternate layout. That was really ingenious to do things that way. All right, so we've got these guys, but we're going to have to lay out another set of 3. And we've got 3 per, oh, that's no, is that going to be big enough? Yes. It's like really not straight, but it's longer than it needs to be, so it's okay. Because we're doing strip sets. So there was no point in needing to square that off. We're just going to leave that at the end. And then we need to find a single to go with it. What goes with purple? I think yellow. Yeah, and then we need a background. There's 2 of those. Yeah. There's a little bit of pink in these, so I've got this kind of a toile fabric. It's an odd combo, but I love it. I showed a picture on Facebook this morning of the string blocks I was piecing. I got them all done, and one of the blocks had fabric from the movie Cars. And it just looked so odd sitting there with all of the Civil War repros and the recycled shirt fabrics. And then here's this novelty. It just made me smile. Okay, so now we'll leave those 2 in, pull these 2 out. And I'm pressing towards the light. Okay. So this fabric has kind of words on it. United States of America, 1 year, and something, something. It's probably the Declaration of Independence or something. Gotta remember which ones we're putting on here. It's been pretty nice having the day home alone also, with the hubby in Raleigh and the son at work. Okay, then these 2 come off. And then we'll add these. And then these come off. Whoops. And we cut the fabric instead of just the thread. If it's within the seam allowance, I can make it work. Okay, we'll get these up. I keep wanting to press that towards the dark. That's a bad habit. Out, out, out. Okay. I love blocks that take just small scraps where each block is different, so it doesn't take a whole lot of yardage, and you can really clear out some small little stuff that way. Straighten things up. Small cutting mats are really great too. You don't need a huge cutting mat if you're only cutting small stuff. Okay, there's one section. And these sections are being cut right sides together, so they're just ready to feed through the machine as is. And there's our excess, not a whole lot, into the trash. Make sure that we have nice straight edges that way. And then the same for these guys. I was thinking this would be fun as a baby-sized quilt, but if it's going to go back to the magazine, it may need to be at least couch-sized, so I'm going to keep on going. Okay, let's check back in. It's true that time really flies when we're doing Quilt-Cam. It's just really fun to see what you're up to. Here's another grand illusion from Jane Shaw, who says, love this quilt. Thanks so much for all you do. Lucy refused to get out off the bed once she saw the camera. Oh, Yorkie love. So super sweet. I'll show the quilt, but then I'll biggie size into Lucy. So there's that quilt. Look at that quilting texture. Doesn't that just look lovely? Can you see Lucy there? Awful cute. Irene's got 3 Yorkies, so they're awfully fun. I'll see if I can. There's Lucy. Hi, Lucy. I don't know what life would be like without our fur babies. We had an episode earlier in the week where we thought that a neighbor's cat was coming onto the porch and knocking over Chloe's water dish. We don't keep food out there, but we do keep the continual water thing so that she can get water. We put the wildlife cam. We have one up at the cabin, and put the wildlife cabin on the porch to see what was happening in the nighttime. And it was a raccoon. They're plain as day, raccoon drinking in Chloe's water dish. That's not Chloe. Now we know raccoons are mean and they're dangerous and they tear up things. We're considering if it comes back, and it hasn't come back yet. It was here for a few days, but it has not come back. We may get a trap and try to relocate this guy. There's a lot of woods around here. If we take him away, he can go off into the woods. But then my little heart says, but what if it's a mama and it has babies somewhere? You just don't know. And we're not getting that close to it. But it was kind of fun to find that in the camera. So what do you do if you have a raccoon in your yard? Okay, so let's trim this one. So I'm packing up for leaving tomorrow, which means all the retreat stuff and the workshop stuff and the lecture stuff and everything has to go. And laundry is in the dryer right now. And I'm trying to think to myself, do I have enough to keep me busy for almost a week? I think so. I think that the tumblers are going to come. The Scrappy Mountain Majesties out of shirts is going to come. Those blocks are about halfway put together, so I could do that one. And then these string blocks that I've been working, I finished piecing them. I've got it, and I trimmed and sliced, and now they've got to be depapered. So that might be tonight's TV watching thing, but we'll see. And there's always the Eternal Hexie Project. Just kind of a fun low contrast selection here. Nothing real bright. And these guys. That's kind of fun with that little toile in the corners. It's amazing how different the fabric looks once you've cut it up small. Okay. Oops. We got to add the corners on. I know that there's some that freak out when using those toile type fabrics because you don't want the seam to be sideways and upside down and backwards and forwards. And by the time you cut it, there's just no way to keep everything right side up all the time. So I just kind of just wing it and let it go. Okay, so here's two the same. And this one's going to come around and become the bottom half. I just love these. These are so addictive. I was even thinking Crazy Town that, you know, wouldn't these be fun with 1.5-inch strips? That ain't happening. And here's this one, both the same. Turn one upside down. And there we go. And that's as far as we can go. So now it's time to lay out another block. So do you see how you just work on 2 blocks at a time? Your pile grows, you're able to see progress, and you don't have 65 blocks in different stage of progress when you're working each block with its own fabrics. It's just much easier to just work 2 blocks in a chain. I like this one. Okay. It's amazing what a nice press does. This background is also a vintage fabric. So I just find those and I just throw them in. My greatest source of those little light grounded calicos, the free table at guild meetings. I picked up some fabric at the free table during the guild meeting this past week. I've got a special piece of free fabric to take to my friend Irene. Just wait till she sees it. Okay, back to Mr. Gmail. Debbie Hargrave says, first time viewing live from Garland, Texas. So hello to the Dallas area. She says, I'm working on Aliatare with a helper, of course, but having fun. It's a great break from a crazy work schedule. And thanks for the great design. Well, it looks like that helper isn't helping you much. So the quilt inspector is sleeping on the job, but she's working on her Aliatare parts right there. And so this is where all the Tupperware went. You know, my husband's like, where were all of those refrigerator containers? Where did they go? I can't find any. And, you know, of course, they're all down in here in the studio with projects in them. So when they go on sale, best invention ever. Those are looking really good. You're doing a great job. I see some texty fabrics, some great gray, lovely. And this one's from Donna, who says, not sure you will get to this, but our raccoon story was there was a raccoon getting into our trash, so my hubby would go out and throw water at it. But one time he was going to do that, he came in completely scared. It wasn't a raccoon, it was a skunk that time. That could have been really bad. That is a bad raccoon skunk story. Thanks, Donna. Yes, I did get your messages because when you leave a comment in the comment section, it also shows up in my email. So if you're leaving a comment on the blog post where this feed is embedded, those comments also get sent to my email. Thank you for letting me know. Regine says, snowballing, thanks for your helping reply on Facebook yesterday on my snowballing issues. Coming in from the center works beautiful. She said, thanks again. Wonderful. And Carol Hodges says, 365 challenge blocks. After seeing the blocks that you just shared, I thought I would share mine as well. I just finished the one in the center on the left before Quilt-Cam started. Each of these are 6-inch blocks. Ooh, nice. So these are her 365 blocks. Look at all the blue and white. Isn't that just stunning? And I recognize this one here on the center that the other gal did. Look at these little itty tiny triangles there. That's a 6-inch block. How wonderful. I just love patchwork. An addiction? No. A passion? Yes, definitely. Those are gorgeous. Kay Reed says, hi from Wales, UK. Watching you live whilst working on wonky wishes. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Watching you live whilst working on wonky wishes. Must tell you, I have been hooked since I discovered your blog last year, especially on scrappy quilting and vintage sewing machines. She says her hubby is even roped into giving the old girls a makeover. Have had some fun adventures and brilliant deals. Can't confess how many are in my collection, but I am sewing tonight on a 401, which I have called Birdie, as she tweets when she sews. Have I got the bug or what? I must tell you, I have even won a few quilty friends over to the dark side of vintage sewing machine collecting. I have learned so much watching by your archive and blogs. In fact, when we all meet up to quilt, I am only allowed to say, well, Bonnie says 3 times per session. So you tell your quilting ladies that Bonnie says hello and keep saving the vintage babies. We really are preserving them for future generations. These things will never break down. They will keep on sewing long beyond any plastic computerized wonder machine will. The software in those machines and the circuit boards change so rapidly with how fast technology improves and improves and improves that a $10,000 machine is obsolete within a matter of a few years. This one has been sewing for almost 67 years now. It's a 1950s machine, so it's at least 60 years old, right? So no problem, beautiful stitch. That's all I wanted to do. Let's save these babies and keep them running for future generations. So that's from Kay, the Welsh lady. You gave me a giggle. Thank you so much, Kay. So here's Rain, who says, miniature hexie project. Here's an update on my miniature hexie project, which I prepped for 50,000 hexies. 50,000. She says, currently I'm piecing them together. I already have dolphins, lots of fish, a shipwreck, an octopus, seahorses, and currently piecing sea turtles. I love your H quilt. It looks so bright and wonderful. The sashing's fabulous. And this is Rain from Germany, and I'm going to show you. Oh, look at this. It's so wonderful. So quilting, is it an addiction? Is it a passion? But look at that sea turtle. That's all itty bitty tiny hexagons. And you can see, if I biggie size here, can you see her map? I slide that turtle over there. I love the turtle, but you can see the hexagons on her layout there. So it's all mapped out so she knows what's going to go next to where and what kind of shapes to build to fill around. Working with hexagons, it's kind of like doing cross stitch or needlepoint. You just, each space takes a color of either background or foreground, and you just kind of build it like a tapestry. So this is wonderful to see. And you've got it all pinned down with straight pins into your board. So nothing can move. No wind can blow your hexagons off. That's wonderful. Don't you just love seeing how other people work? I am very inspired. Thank you, Rain. So glad you could join with us today. Karen Brule says, relocating animals. So let's talk about this raccoon thing. She says, thanks for Quilt-Cam today. I'm working on another hexie project. We once caught and relocated a possum that somehow got into our house and was living there for a few days. In the house? It was quite the night. Have a great weekend. Oh, so that's all it says. Okay, so she's just commiserating. This one is from Lori Jansen. It says, lots of scraps. Thanks for being on early. I have a pile of fabric left over from cutting out a Hunter Star block with my new AccuQuilt. I thought I might try some string blocks. When you sew on phone book pages, do you cut the page to the size you want, or do you cut it bigger and trimmed down? And she's from Monroe, Wisconsin. I usually cut the paper the size that I'm going to be trimming to. So if it's a 6-inch block, I will cut my paper 6.5. And then I also overpiece by about 1/4 inch all the way around. So let's say as I am piecing from my diagonal on the block out, and I happen to just barely miss a corner, and there's only a tiny corner of paper showing, I don't want to have to add a whole nother piece to cover that, because that puts seams in the corner. But if I overpiece, I can slide the ruler down. I have some leeway with the ruler where I can place the ruler to do my final trim. That way, if there's something that I want to center, if it's a design in a novelty fabric, or if I want to miss a place where a strip was short, or if I want to miss that corner that I just didn't cover far enough, I have a margin of about 1/4 inch all the way around the outside of my unfinished block size. So yeah, it's a little bit of waste, but we're talking strings here. So I would much rather have the ability to move my ruler around the block before I trim, just to be sure I've got everything, than come up with a block that was too short in a corner. So there's your answer. I hope that helps you. Those strings are wonderful things. I've had to buy a whole new bin to house my dark neutrals, because I was working on those dark, sandy, toasty, taupey. Actually, they look about the same color as Sadie blocks, and they're done. The paper's going to come off maybe tonight. Maybe tonight, we'll see. Patricia Geiger says, addiction. If it is, I am proud to say it's the only addiction I have that requires a needle. Well, maybe more than one needle, since I have over 40 sewing machines. Yes! So that's from Patricia Geiger. So now I feel much better. We are. We're collectors. We're not addicts. Thank you so much, Patricia. All righty, so we have Ivani, who says, thanks for the inspiration, and she's done a garlic knots table runner. She's from Brazil, and she's quilted this. I want to see if I can get this Big E size. It won't, it's not, it's embedded in the email, so I can't turn it sideways. But here's Ivani sends her garlic knots table runner, reds and greens. And do you see those echoing circles in the center? Isn't that amazing? This is the most fun block I've had fun with for a long time. Oh, I love it. Beautiful. So her fabric's got, looks like strawberries on it. She's got some polka dots. This is just gorgeous. Thank you, Ivani, and hello to Brazil. Always love it when our internationals can tune in. This is from Margaret Blank, who says, so happy to catch you live today. Showery and cool in central Alberta. So perfect for quilting on section 3 of 4 of a Quilt As You Go Japanese taupe quilt. I'm making for my son and his bride, who will be married in July. See photo of it under the needle. Section 4 is sandwiched in waiting. Then there'll be lots of work to do on joining the sections together. She says, second photo is of me with a piece I shared a couple of Quilt-Cams ago. Okay, so let's flip up here to her photos. So here she is machine quilting those lovely taupes. They are very restful. And so I did use a lot of taupes and tans and beiges and things like that in with my string blocks. I love this with the neutrals. The taupe and the neutral together is just yummy. I'm looking at those fabrics up close. Looks like she's doing some cross hatching of squares. And she's got her walking foot on. Don't know what kind of machine it is, but walking feet are one of life's best inventions, aren't they? Let's check her second photo. Oh, there's your, oh, beautiful. Okay, so here's the piece. She shared this piece a couple of quilt cams ago. Remember, she was doing the perspective of driving up her road near her house in her car. And can you see? Look at, she's got the yellow lines on the road, but look at that sky. Look at that sky. Isn't that beautiful? So this is her art quilt piece. Let's read more of what she says. I'm so glad that you got a picture of yourself with it. She says, my piece is in the all-Canadian exhibit. There are 40 pieces in that one and 41 in the international exhibit. 81 beautiful quilts in all. It was a wonderful experience to be there. It runs in Stratford till September 5th. So quilters in Upper New York State and Michigan as well as Ontario might want to visit. Stratford is a lovely vacation spot. I sure would be there if I could. And she says her piece is entitled, It's Still About the Sky. And I love that sky. The sky really draws you in. So let's show that picture one more time. That is just beautiful. I'm going to just biggie a little bit. But look at that sky. It looks like it's tie-dyed for those clouds, or maybe ice-dyed or something, hand dye, if it is. I don't remember quite, but isn't that just what you would see driving up the road? And it would make you go, oh, what a beautiful day. Wonderful. Okay. Back to the email. Thank you so much, Margaret. This one's from Rita. And she, she says, playing with shirtwaists and pillowcases with helper Bailey in Dublin, Ireland, making quilt for sun. Wonderful to catch you live, and 1,000 thanks. Oh, isn't this puppy cute? So there we are. We've got the puppy and the quilt coming live from Dublin. I absolutely loved Dublin. I have so many fond memories of walking in that area and visiting the cathedrals and the churches and the pubs and the shops and the street musicians and Grafton Street and all of those places. I saw the Book of Kells. It was just one of those things that was not on my bucket list, but once I got there, I added it in and then crossed it out because it was done. It was just wonderful. So yes, I loved my time in Ireland. It was way too short. I would love to go back and see some more. When I was there, it was just about, gosh, was that 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but it was June, just about this time of the year for the International Quilt Festival of Ireland. And we were out on the Cliffs of Moher on the sunniest day that the Cliffs of Moher have likely ever seen any given June. And I actually got sunburned with Eleanor Burns on the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. So I loved it. Thank you for tuning in and sharing your beautiful quilt with me and bringing fond memories of Dublin and beautiful Ireland back to my memory. Okay, let's do one more. Well, how much time do we have? We have some time left. There's no curfew. Hubby's playing tennis, right? I love that photo. Those pinwheels are gorgeous. I want to biggie size the photo just so that you can see that these pinwheels are coming from shirts. She's got blue and white stripes in there. The blocks are lovely and large, and it makes really great use of those prints and stripes. Isn't that just going to be lovely on the bed? And of course, Bailey. I think it was Bailey. Was that right? Sweet puppy. Don't know where we would be without our fur babies. Yep, Bailey. Thank you, Rita. Thank you. That's wonderful. Mrs. J. Burry says, first time I've caught you live, which is always nice. She says, great to catch you tonight. Can't sew with you tonight as I have just had a cataract removed on Monday, but here's a picture of my fabric that I traveled 3 hours for today. I live in Crete, Greece. I think this is wonderful. I think this is the first time I've ever had Greece live on the Quilt-Cam. And she's got some lovely florals and a plaid and a fun geometric. These are just, aren't they wonderful? Isn't fabric just the best? Are we addicts? Who cares? Maybe so, but there's a lot worse things to be addicted to. Those are absolutely beautiful. And to think that she had a lovely 3-hour drive post-cataract surgery in search of fabric, that's a quilter. Wonderful to hear from you, Rita. Okay. Barbara Adams says, sorry, here's the picture. Chunky Churn Dash. And she's got her 301 two-tone set up, and we're on the big screen. Hooray. So we've got her Chunky Churn Dashes in progress there, and she's got a little two-tone. It's what we call the elbow, L-B-O-W, which stands for light beige or light brown, oyster white, also known as Bel Air, because it's two-tone, just like the Bel Air cars in the late 50s. So she's working there, got her Quilt-Cam going. Again, those are easy blocks. Those are just as addictive as these, and you'll find the free pattern for Chunky Churn Dash under the free patterns tab at the top of the blog. Somebody asked earlier about when we switched out the quilt on the wall. Well, do you guys remember about a year ago when somebody says, don't you think it's time you changed out your quilts on the wall? I'm tired of looking at that one. And I went, who are you to think that you can demand that I change out the quilts on the wall? Well, you know how things go. I did participated in a photo of the day thing on Instagram, and they would have, this day you're going to post something with this topic and this topic and this topic. And one of the things was quilts with words or quilts with, letters. And I pulled this quilt out to take photos of it. And I took the photos and posted them on Instagram and Facebook, and the comments were like, well, where's this quilt been hiding? You should hide that. You should hang that in your Quilt-Cam space because it's got your name on it. I know you can't see through the machine, but maybe you can see the Bonnie that's on the side over here. I love this quilt. It's got crumb blocks and orphan blocks and leftover parts, and it's hand quilted, and it should be hanging in the studio. So now it is, and I'm happy to have it here. Always save those orphan blocks. You never know what they're going to end up in, and I love the improvisational piecing, and I also love the hand quilting that went into this one, which is something that's very hard for me to see to do now. So hand quilter turned machine quilter, we just keep quilting whatever life throws at us. We just keep at it. I'm also greatly inspired by a friend who's had a really scary bout with cancer that has affected her arm, and she has been unable to sew. But a loving friend, knowing that she has this deep desire to create beauty, provided her with some coloring books and some oil-based colored pencils, and she has been using her left hand. She's a right-handed, but she's been training herself to color with her left hand the most beautiful coloring book pages I have ever seen. So no matter what happens in life, our desire to create beauty does not go away, because that's what fulfills us. There is a way to keep doing what we love, or maybe whatever happens to us will force us into another avenue. If we're not able to quilt anymore, maybe we'll be able to paint, or we'll be able to dye fabric, or we'll be able to do something to be making beauty in another way, because I fully believe that making and creating fulfills a need that we have within ourselves to contribute to this life, to this world. That's just a little side note that just came to mind. Sarah Yao says, quilt progress has slowed. She says, I'm Sarah from Birmingham, England, so I don't normally catch you live. Oh, I started making a Stepping Stones quilt patterned by Pam and Nikki Linnett a few months ago. However, I now have a pile of parts ready to sew, but no time to do so since the arrival of my daughter nearly 8 weeks ago. As addicted as I might be to quilting, she's worth taking a break. So I would say she's addicted to the baby with all good reason, and wouldn't we all be too? Look at that sweet face. That's a quilter in the making, quilter in training, and you'll soon be able to get some quilting in, hopefully when she naps. But for now, babies grow all too fast, and the quilting can wait. Thank you for sharing her with us. Her photo just went viral, Mama. She's absolutely beautiful. Congratulations. She's looking at you so intently, probably wondering why you're putting this phone over her face to take this picture. I see block parts and I see Wonder Clips and I see an IKEA light in the background. I see a cutting mat. Wonderful. You'll get there. It'll be there. They grow all too fast. All right, let's lay out one more block. We've got background. We're just going to do this backwards. So I'm choosing this one because it kind of mimics the sky in Margaret's quilt. And we're going to do one in the center, two on the side. It's one of those, you got to look at which is the right side, which is the wrong side. And I guess if you have to look, it really doesn't matter. Two at the top and a color to go in the middle. And I'm thinking with that blue, what color? Orange. Because we can. Okay. Chasing foot pedal. And when Quilt-Cam's over, I'd love to keep sewing garlic knot blocks. But I've got a quilt in the machine that needs finished and needs binding, made ready. So I'll likely be over there. And here's this one. So here we have in this toile, let me give it a press. The toile scenes are all chopped up. So here's a girl upside down. This is the bottom part of probably the girl, right side up. There's a frog in the willows there. I just don't worry about it. I just let those pieces go whichever way they are. It's fabric. It's not about the scene. It's about the color first and the value second and the variety third, and then worry about if you chop somebody's head off or whatever when you're cutting into a toile. But I love the soft look that toile fabrics have. They're gentle scenes. They're fun to look at. And then we stick it with purple and bright yellow. Love that. And guess what? We got to lay out one more. Okay. We have a light green. And remember what I said about thready fabric? This is one of those. And if you pull a thread, it just keeps unraveling. So don't pull the threads. Okay. Looks like there's an extra piece here. This one needs a press. Okay. Keep that together. So we need another background. This is another kind of toile piece. But luckily, this one only has grapes and grape leaves. I use this for a backing on a quilt, and I have loved the little bits of scraps that have ended up into the scrap bin because of that. And then these are there. So we got to find something to go in the middle. And I'm thinking purple. Play with the whole box of crayons. It's a lot of fun. Okay. First two off. Press to the light, which seems so counterintuitive. But you got to press to the light so you can press the other one to the middle. It's amazing how you can get done how much you can get done when you're not chatting and reading emails. These threads, it's like they jump off of the fabric while you're not looking. if this is just, and I bet it's a Moda. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just trim those off, those whisker threads, because if you pull them, they just keep unraveling. And this, all of this, it's just like you got to sew it super fast so that stuff stops to ravel, or doesn't start to ravel. Or is that like one of those words where it's unravel, not ravel? So if it's unravel means come off, does ravel mean that you're winding it back up? I don't know. This fabric really does look like the sky in that art quilt, but I think it's supposed to be water, but it could be sky. I'm really looking forward to our cruise in just a couple of weeks. It's coming up really soon. My mom and my 2 crazy aunts are also coming. They're so funny. Now, did I get through all layers? I did. Okay. Just enough to have room to square up. If you had all of these things kitted, this would be a great retreat project. But I have a couple of other things that can go on retreat instead. Oh, press towards the light. It's just so nice when you can nest those seams and you feel that they're nested all the way. They kind of help stabilize the layer so things don't shift as much when you are trying to cut sitting down, which you normally don't do. Okay, send these through and then we will check the email again. I think I saw something from my friend Jen. They vibrate on my wrist too, so I can kind of get a little bit of a glimpse. See, blue ocean and orange roses. Does it matter that they're not the same fabric line? No, it's all about the color and the variety. Okay, so these 2 rectangles will go on there. So this message says, she says, sniff, sniff, love those babies. Aww. She lives the next town over. You would think that we could get together, but she's got 4 kids and she's a busy real estate agent. And when I'm in town, she's got meetings. And when I'm not in town, her free time happens. And now her kids are out of school and life is crazy. So here's, oh, good, Karen, you got it. Awesome. So Karen sent me a photo of a really, really cool Brother machine that she found on Craigslist in California this morning. And she's sent me the ad and said, if you lived close by, would you be running to get this? Do you think this is a good price? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, if that were in my area, I'd be in my car right now. So, of course, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning California time when she's sending this stuff. And she says, I'm going. So here's the picture. Let's see if I can pop it up. And it's pink. It's a pink Brother. See? she got it for 40 bucks. He was asking 50 and she got it for 40. The case is kind of crummy. You know, you need to always tell them that, you know, unless you know that it's been professionally gone through, that wiring can be iffy, and you really won't know if things are usable until it's been gone through. So if you feel like the price is a little high, you know, sometimes cords are rotten. Always check to see if cords are fried. You might be able to talk them down just a little bit. But this is a straight stitch brother. It's about the same color as Barbie over here. Made in Japan, same era. I'll show you. Oh, very cool. Look, this is the column. Look at the oh, I didn't mean to click that. You go away. You go away. Okay. Down here, there's this little emblem. Can you see that? Little raised design on that. So super cool. Very retro, very 50s. Lots of chrome. Check out the chrome on that hand wheel. And it's pink. I love it. So thrilled for you. That's from Karen, and she's in California. She says, near Roseville. No, near Roseville. I love it. She says, runs like a gem, stitches beautifully. Now I just need to lube her in all the right places so she'll be so happy in her new home. Did I mention I love pink? Congratulations. That's terrific. That always makes me so happy. And here I'm actually happy when I look at Craigslist and there's nothing. Thank you. Thank you, because I don't want to be tempted to go buy anymore. But if this was on my Craigslist, I sure would go buy it. Okay. She says, but my kids are out of school now and I'm trying to take a bit of a break. I smell a sew date in the air. Yes, absolutely. Let's see what we can do when I get back from Kentucky. That's back for Jen, who's texting. Gmail says, we're going to wind this up here. Evelyn O'Brien in Canada says, Evelyn O'Brien here in Slave Lake, Alberta, visiting my daughter and grandkids. It's raining here, so we're inside, which is why I can watch right now. At home in Nova Scotia, it's sunny. Brought some sewing stuff to work on. Oh, very cute. But haven't got to do it yet. Love spending time with the grandkids who I haven't seen in 4 years. Grandkids grow awfully fast, Grandma. The quilts will wait. This is also where the Scrappy House quilt is living now. She says, have a great day. And I met Evelyn in Florida when I went down there to teach, and we've kept in touch. There's beautiful, beautiful scrappy houses. And the free pattern for the Happy Scrappy Houses is under the free patterns tab at the top of the blog. It makes 7.5-inch finished houses using 2-inch strips and squares and rectangles. But see how fun you could have with all of the colors. And that's something that the grandkids could get in on if you didn't already have your quilt made. Have the kids help you pick which piece is going to be the roof. Which fabric do we want for the chimneys? Which fabric do we want for the main house? What do you want to put in the window? And what color is going to be the door? This is the kind of thing that kids would love to get in on. And they could also, you know, learn their colors that way. What color is this door? Well, it's red. You know, what color is this window? It's pink. What is in the window? It's a kitty. So you can use the quilting to teach basic kid things. Love it. Thank you, Evelyn. All right, one more, and then I think we're going to call it an afternoon. This is from Mom Stockton02, who says, thanks for Quilt-Cam today and the good belly laugh I had when you mentioned your quilt rack. But gave myself a good pin stick, which was totally worth it. Oh my gosh. It's always good to keep it real, right? So everybody in my studio, what's going to happen here is these little guys are going to get, this actually works better than the quilt rack, right? I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier. I'll be sewing these 2 rectangles on and then turning one of the units around to butt up to this one and sew this block together. Now, when can we do our next Quilt-Cam? I don't know. I think June is pretty well shot, and it's going to be after I get back from the cruise in July, because after I get back from Kentucky, I have just a couple of days, and then I'm driving. I've got 3 guild visits in Georgia plus a guild visit in Tennessee, all in one big long trip of 4 groups, and then straight to the cabin from Tennessee, because that ends up on like the 2nd or 3rd of July. So then it's straight to the cabin for 4th of July, and I leave the 7th or the 8th for the cruise. So it'll be middle of July or so before we can do anything, but be watching the blog. Watch on Facebook. I always post at least a day or 2 ahead so that we can give you the heads up on when this will fit in. Like I said, it's not scheduled. It can't be because my life is chaos, but it's fun to be doing this and to be able to spend the time meeting other quilters and sewing up all of the scraps and having a heck of a lot of fun. So if you are in the UK or Europe, where you're in the later time zones going on into your evening, if you're still not tired yet, if it's not bedtime, see if you can get some more stitching in before you shut it off for the night. If it's early where you are and the family's not begging for your attention, see if you can get just a little bit more done. But if the family's around, just to prove that this is not an addiction, we can turn off the machine and go spend the time with the people that you love. The quilting will wait while the babies grow and the grandkids play. All right. So this is Bonnie Hunter from the basement in Quiltville, wishing you all a wonderful Saturday. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.